It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, December 9th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high-quality content that is wondering if we're closer even to Risto's return.
I don't know.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to Locked On Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, so if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. And to keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials. Plus, we've got that new Everydayers Club. So we will be talking a little bit more about that again later in the show. We are going to get to Oliver Bonk's debut with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms as part of our Phantoms Tuesday report that we do every single week. We got to follow up on some stuff with the Flyers, though, as we head into tonight's game against the San Jose Sharks. And Russ, I think it's really interesting what Rick Tocchet had to say both after the game against the Avalanche, as well as what he was talking about in practice yesterday and what we saw in practice yesterday. And I think, it is interesting how we tend to agree with him. What he says, it's just like some of the execution isn't there, and he recognizes that. And I think it's frustrating him just as much as it's frustrating us, to be honest, in terms of that, he said they just weren't making the plays that were key to winning. He thought they dominated the game in the third, which they did, right? They just weren't able to finish. And there were some specific plays that he noticed that just did not get followed through on. And ultimately, that's why they weren't able to tie it up in the end.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to that. I also think that when he's talking about plays, is he talking about set plays or just plays that organically happen on the ice?
Probably both.
Probably both. Okay.
I would say so, based on how he was talking about it, just because of what the opportunities were that they had to score, like the best opportunities. There was one or two of them that were off a face-off, right? That didn't go, and there were some on the rush.
Yeah. Okay. Look, that's fine. I still think, though, because I've given this great thought, I still think that this team is at the NHL level on the corner of we are hoping to make the playoffs, and the GM is like, I'm still trying to rebuild, and they still don't intersect. This is not a perfect intersection, and we went through this with a few years of torts, and now it seems like they're going through it again.
This is like the critical year for a lot of teams, right? Where you do have that conflict of interest, right? Where you're still wanting to maybe get some assets, maybe have a chance at a really strong player in the draft to add to the pool that you've already put together, right? You feel like you need that one more good draft pick, or you need the cap space to make that one key signing to take that true next step forward. And that comes into conflict, and the best teams figure out how to get over that.
They do.
Right?
It's frustrating for the players. Everything Travis Konecny says, I agree with half of it. The part of his assessment that I didn't agree with is I don't think they're one of the top teams. I understand that you're playing some of them tough, and you feel like in the game that maybe you could win it. Maybe they're not that much better than you, but everything else points otherwise, right? So that's the part that I think has been frustrating for him. And I think that's why he needs to talk about it, and I get it.
Yeah, and I do think that in the NHL, there is the mentality of any team can beat any other team on any given day, right? And we see that all the time, right? And I know, we're going to talk about the Sharks, and I know they are better than they have been, but to win the way they did against Carolina in their most recent game, that's a prime example of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the margin of error is slight as far as who gets to win and who loses in a game. And I think it does come down to one or two plays in most games with most teams. Now, once in a while, teams get blown out. But that's really what it comes down to a lot of times, and that is execution. And right now, Flyers offensively don't execute enough. Defensively,
Right.
a little better than they were
Much
last
better.
year.
Yeah. I would say so. Now, he was a little blunt about that third pairing of Zamula
Yeah,
and Juleson.
yeah.
When asked about him, he was like, "Yeah, they were there." Essentially, that's
Uh,
what he said, right?
well, we'll see
Uh,
if he does something about it.
and the reason why I said what I said on yesterday's show about Emil Andre, and I said at the tail end of last week about he's locked in that spot, that even when Rasmus Ristolainen comes back, I don't know what they're going to do, because I feel like Emil Andre has earned that. And the way Rick Tocchet talked about him after the game on Sunday confirms that for me.
Well, that's good for now. Like, we'll see. I mean, hopefully, like when Risto comes back, it's a slow transition in, and then that can stay intact. But again, that's when. Like, just skating. Like, I understand the question at the beginning of the show, but like we've been through this before, and so
Sure,
it's
we don't
like,
know what the long term will
no,
be at all. We cannot commit to anything or make any assumptions about
no.
anything. However, it's a good transition into the fact that he was skating in a regular jersey in practice yesterday, as opposed to the non-contact jersey. He was taking contact in some of the drills out there. If you look at the defensive pairings that they were using at practice, he was in the extra pairing with Zamula, right?
Right.
And it looks like they're going to give Ty Murchison a game.
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll see if that comes to it. But the
That
way
could
the
change
pairings,
in pregame skate, but still,
yeah,
at least he's kind of at least playing the role, so it's good for his development.
exactly. So we still have that top four with Sealer, Sanheim, Andre, and Drysdale, because Cam
Right.
York is still unavailable, which is
does still make me think that it was head related, not shoulder related.
yeah,
It does
we'll
make me think
find
that.
out eventually, I guess. But
Maybe we might not.
I don't know. But the point being is that it does seem like Ty Murchison is going to get a game. He was made available to the media afterwards. That's usually an
Right.
indicator.
That's a help to say that, but still, I've seen stuff change pregame, so we'll see.
Sure. But it does appear that, may not be this week, but it may be next week. It could be whenever, but Risto practicing in a regular jersey does show another step here. And I would guess we're going to see him. Like I said, don't know when, but he's going to play.
And
at
this is
some
why
point.
they desperately need to make a move, because they're going to end up just losing somebody on waivers if they don't. Like, even if you just get a 6th-round pick for somebody, like at some point, it's better than just losing them.
Right. Now, we said that Risto would probably go in, or at least I did, go in a third pairing situation to start
Yeah.
off with, just because it's been so long,
I
and
think
then
so. Yeah.
kind of go from there. And obviously, it's all going to be dependent on Cam York's status and how all those pieces fit together. And until we know both of those pieces of information, it's impossible to say. But I think it's good in the sense that there's some sort of reinforcement there as far as a higher quality defenseman on paper.
On
If
paper.
York
'Cause we
turns
don't know
out
if he
to
could
be
if he could be physical anymore. Like, we don't know
correct,
how he's going to play that, if that could hold up.
right? But we just know, I think he's comparable to Cam York at this point in terms of defensive play.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, so that's good if Cam York is out
Right.
longer
Any
term
longer,
there. Yeah, we will see for sure. But one other thing that I thought was interesting, that Jordan Hall pulled from Rick Tocchet's post-practice discussions yesterday. And, he's talking about team culture as it related to Ty Murchison and his
Mhm.
attitude, which has always been great. And he's
Yeah.
always been a hard worker, right? And he said that, he was frustrated about taking some guff, I think, when people were calling him out on using the fourth line in key situations, and that was about team culture. And I got to say, team culture is also winning.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to do that is to win, not to show a tip of the hat to the fourth line in a game that you're desperately trying to come back in. So I think he's going to lose that one.
I think he is too. I think he should lose that one. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand the sentiment and it feels
Yeah,
good.
I get it.
It does, but it doesn't help in the end.
Didn't help you win the game.
No, and especially
What is the fourth line? I mean, here's the thing.
when Garnet Hathaway's doing nothing, what's the point of putting him out there?
He drew a penalty, but the last I looked, he has 0 points on the season, right?
Yeah, I mean,
That's hard to
it's been
do. 0
nothing.
points in 29 games. Like usually nobody gets 29 games to have 0 points.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough. It is rough for sure. But we do, in fact, have a game against the San Jose Sharks. We're going to get into that and start talking about the Lehigh Valley Phantoms and Oliver Bonk coming up next.
NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defenseman tightens up, and momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. You can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. Again, I still go with the Broncos to win the Super Bowl. They're now 11-2. The odds are going to start getting a little worse, or better odds for them to win, but worse for you to bet. So get on that now. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen of the day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live the Flyers every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. You can join our Everydayers Club and get Locked On Flyers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonflyers.supercast.com, or you can check out that link in the show notes to learn more. On tomorrow's show, we will recap this Flyers versus Sharks game. Plus, we're going to get to your mailbag questions. So make sure you get those in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com, send us a message on any of our socials, or comment on our YouTube channel. Now, the San Jose Sharks, like I mentioned earlier, won their most recent game against Carolina 4-1 pretty handily. I know Rod Brindamore was not happy about that game on the Carolina side, but the Sharks are what they are. They were 5-5 in their last 10. They're 14, 13, and 3 overall. So, as we know, they are much better than they were last season. They're still not an elite team, but this 1-2 punch of Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith is turning out to be a very good thing for the Sharks. And it's kind of coming to fruition in a way here. Now, they've got to fill out the rest of their lineup eventually so that they're getting, more scoring from other places. Eklund's pretty good too.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, their top line's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. I think that, they just kind of have to give the depth a little bit more heft to it next year, and they're going to kind of be next year what the Blackhawks are this year, in my opinion.
I think they're on that path. What I looked at specifically was they're scoring more than the Flyers, and their power play is better than the Flyers.
Yeah.
And so, these are two big keys in this game because, you as the Flyers, if you really want to say you've arrived, you have to be able to beat a Sharks team too. The Avs are the Avs, but the Sharks actually are outpacing you in areas that maybe they shouldn't be outpacing you. And so you kind of have to prove it to them.
Yeah. Obviously their team defense isn't very good yet.
No.
And that's something they need to work on.
But they're playing their youth, they're playing Dickinson, so they're trying to do that the right way. So they're going to take some bumps.
Right, and build chemistry as a complete team, right?
Right.
As this youth movement in San Jose
Yes.
is going along. They're just doing it all together, and they're gonna live by the
Wherever
sword
the
and die by
chips
the sword.
fall, that's where they fall. They're not worried if they make the playoffs. They're probably not gonna, but they're gonna just do it that way, and I applaud that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good strategy for them overall, and it's what they've said they were gonna do all along, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think it's mostly working for them. They're getting some surprise wins every now and again.
Yep.
They're getting absolutely destroyed by good teams every now and again too. Like they lost to the Caps 7-1 recently. That was not great for them, and that just shows the defensive weaknesses that they have. And going back to our earlier discussion about execution and about making those plays, this is the exact team that you have to demonstrate that against,
Right.
because the Sharks are a very young, very fast team, and the Flyers can struggle against that sort of team. So when the Flyers get chances, they have to capitalize.
Yeah, like your top pairing's going to get a lot of use. Their second line's still really good though with Eklund. So the top four is going to get a lot of use. They still have wily guys like Barclay Goodrow, like, so they do have like a mix of guys. And if they put in Askarov, he could certainly have a big game. He's capable. He's just starting to feel it this year. So yeah, this is one where you don't want the mistakes to pile up. You don't want to put them on the power play. You want to play a little faster, a little smarter, and you do want to come through with some execution for sure.
Yeah, and I think this is a really good opportunity for the Flyers to play more of a clean game,
Yeah.
because the Sharks are also a team that depends on block shots a lot,
Yes.
especially when they face better teams than them. And the Flyers do that still on occasion, but
Mhm.
they are and should be growing out of that necessity based on some clean defensive play and zone
Yeah.
exits. They should not need a ton of block shots to be successful. But the Sharks are kind of a year behind the Flyers on that front, and
Right.
that's going to be a really interesting indicator to me, I think, in this game.
Yeah, and Dan Vladar will be in for this one, so that'll be good. And yeah, this is one where uh based off of last game, you want to win this game. So this is one where like all these things will come into play and you just have to put your best foot forward in this one. But if they stumble a little, like if that top pairing makes mistakes, it could be a long game too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it'll be a good one. We will
Mhm.
obviously talk about it on tomorrow's show in terms of the results. The results in Lehigh Valley were not ideal this past week, with 2 losses and an overtime win. But that overtime win, the Phantoms were up 2-0 in that game, and
Yeah.
Utica tied it up on Saturday, forcing overtime there. And giving up 2 goals in the third period of that game. John Snowden continues to be great, in my opinion, because he was very clear. He's like, this team is not playing up to snuff.
Right.
He was very short in terms of his reactions to the 6-2 loss to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. I think he's personally frustrated that they can't
Yeah.
get past that
Well,
team.
because they have a higher talent level than what they're doing.
Yeah,
Like it
exactly.
doesn't mean they're all going to gel at the right moment, but I think they have a higher talent level than what they're doing, and I think that would frustrate me too.
Yeah, I think that is starting to kind of seep into what he's talking about. And because he does know the talent is there,
Yes.
and that's what's more frustrating to him. I think that, one of the things he mentioned, which is true, and I think he's saying it because he knows it's his job to get this team over that. But we've reached the part of the season where everybody's figured each other out now, and
Mhm.
teams are making adjustments. So the
Oh
Phantoms
yeah.
had a ton of early season success, but now that's starting, like the playing field is leveling,
Right.
right? Because everybody knows everybody else, and whatever new things
Stuff's getting tighter.
yeah,
Teams are doing more video studies, so then they play you again. It's different. Yeah, nobody's getting taken by surprise. And so now they have to claw for every win. Like it's gotten to the point where there's no easy games now.
correct. And so that's kind of what happened here, I think. It drops the Phantoms to 5th in the division. They had been as high as 3rd
Yep.
a couple of weeks ago, and it's their first losing week of the season, where they've had 3 games in the
Yeah.
week.
And
And
that bump
so
goal is the only thing that bailed them out. Otherwise, it would have
correct.
really been a horrible weekend.
Yeah, that overtime goal. But even then, that was a special teams failure, because their power play was 0 for 8 on the week. It
It's hard
has
to be
to
0 for
get
8.
better. But the game tying goal that forced that overtime that they needed Bump to be a hero in the first place was a shorthanded goal
Yeah,
by Utica. So it's
that
like,
hurts.
it really hurts. The power play is something they absolutely need to improve on here, there. And, we'll get into some of the other guys' performances and stuff. I'm not going to dig too much into the goaltending, because it continues to be very good. Even in that 6-2 loss, that was not on Alexei Kolosov. That
Okay.
was a team loss
Yeah.
there overall. I mean, could he have saved one, maybe 2 of them? sure,
I'm sure that's
but
the case.
but
Yeah.
that the team was just not in good form,
Right.
and Wilkes-Barre Scranton is always on it. So,
Yeah.
um, I wouldn't put it on him because Bjarnason and Kolosov both looked great in those other games. I thought they're fine, and they're holding down the fort. But Oliver Bonk's debut is obviously the biggest news of the week for the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. He only got the one game in on Saturday.
Right.
They're obviously easing him into it. Don't want to give him a back-to-back situation to start off the season. But that was obviously the game they won. So it was
Right.
good for him to be in that one. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought, he had a couple of things where maybe he was a little behind the play, but
Yeah.
that's like getting your sea legs back. That's getting your timing back. That's getting pace back. Like, I think his instincts were typical Oliver Bonk. I thought he was doing the things that he does well there. He said he felt physically good
Mhm.
post game. And so, it's one game, but very, very happy to have him back.
Yeah, I mean, his passing was really good. It was evident
Yeah.
on the one goal that he kind of helped set from the back end. So he helped stretch the ice with his passing. I do feel like he was a little bit behind at times, like you said. I
Yeah.
also feel like, and this is an important thing, and this is where having not played any of this season, when you see the difference of like players in the NHL and players in the AHL defensemen are generally slower, and he looks slow compared to like an NHL defenseman. So he's got to pick up playing at pace, playing faster this year because like he's at a new level now, and we'll see. We'll see how that part progresses. Again, I don't look at him as a big point producer. He'll get some 5-on-5, but I don't look at him as a big point producer. So people are looking at him to be this like big offensive defenseman. He's not going to be a big offensive defenseman, but he's going to be a guy who knows how to play defense, can really get the puck out, and is a smart player and can play a lot of minutes. That's his game, and if he's like a 35, 40 point NHL defenseman, that's kind of what I'm expecting out of him. So I just want to see him play a little faster. So I think that'll get better.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, where he ends up in terms of the pairings because they had him with Adam Yenning, and I think that was a good
Oh,
idea,
that's a good idea.
right? In terms of who he plays with. I think he could also play well with Murchison
Mhm.
if they
And he had good communication with the inning,
yeah.
like he really did.
Yeah, I thought so. So I'm pleased with what they're doing in terms of the
Mhm.
plan here for him. And it's just kind of a we'll see at this point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
With him. But we do have to talk about some of the other guys. We'll talk a little bit more about Alex Bump and Denver Barkey in particular. We will get to all of that coming up next. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch. It finally gives fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging those seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, the layout makes it so simple. You scroll through the matchups and compare seat views. Then you pick a game, tap a section, and you have your seats locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for the fine print. Alerts for teams and matches make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL. That's all one word for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time. All right, so we talked about Alex Bump getting that one game-winning goal in overtime against Utica this past week for the Phantoms, and really interesting because he made a key mistake earlier in the game that led to a power play opportunity for Utica, and I think he was really frustrated at that point, and you could
But
just
we've
see
talked
it.
about that. Like we've talked about that, and that's the whole thing. That's why you can't bring him up because he will eventually get frustrated at the NHL level because he has to figure out how to do things in the AHL first.
Yeah, and he's got to clean up some of the turnovers,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So, and the thing is, he is so self-aware. That is one of the things that
He
impresses
is.
me about him the most is he is so specifically self-aware about what he needs to work on. He knows he needs to get more physical in terms of his two-way play, especially I would say in the neutral zone more than anything.
Yeah.
And like I said, clean up on those turnovers. He did also score in the game against Hershey that they lost, but I think he's making excellent progress, and he just has to get to be more consistent, and he'll get there.
Yeah, I think that's it's a big thing. Right now he's still a minus player. He's got to get past that too.
Yeah. Now, Denver Barkey continues to impress me quite a bit. I think he's a little bit further along than I might have expected. I do think
Offensively.
offensively, yeah. Yeah, I think, he's
Well, because
getting
there's
to all
more
the
to it. There's more to it.
no, and he knows that, and the coaches know that, but I think given his size, I did not expect him to adjust his game that quickly to be able to get to the open ice as well as he's been doing. He's figuring out how to get quality chances
Mhm.
overall. And at least so far, other teams haven't been able to pick up on it as much as I maybe thought they would.
No, I figured offensively he would be adept pretty quick at the AHL level, but when you peel back the curtain, like he's only got 7% defensive zone starts and
Yeah.
4% in the neutral zone. It's 89% offensive zone starts. So that the coaching staff is silently telling you something there. And so they're like, okay, well, he's got the offense down. We'll keep him there for a little while, but he has to figure the rest out. And this is why he's going to be a 2-year player down there. This is why you don't talk about bringing up Denver Barkey no matter what he's doing scoring wise, because he has to round out his game, and it's going to take a while because he didn't have to play a stitch of defense in junior hockey, and he's not the biggest guy. So he has to figure all this out. It's not going to happen overnight.
Exactly, and that's why I'm, like, exceedingly pleased with what they're
Mhm.
doing with him, how he's playing, and what his path, for development is gonna be, and
Yeah, he's a
just the
smart, able
fact that
guy. I mean, he
yeah,
plays
he's just
fast.
been
I like that.
very consistent, and I
Mhm.
like that a lot. With some of these other guys, it's been up and down, especially like Gendron, Jacob Gaucher. We have not seen a huge amount of consistency from those guys, but Barkey, we are seeing it, and
Yeah, and
and
he could
that's
shoot more
something I
too. He's only
appreciate.
averaging 2.5 shots a game, so he does need to shoot more too.
Yeah, and speaking of those other guys, Gendron, he had an assist on Saturday, but he had 4 or more shots on goal in every game. So I do think the effort is there. I think this is just you got to finish on these chances, kind of thing, and we'll see what he does moving forward. Carson DeWart, 0 points in 5 games. Don't
I would
love
say one
that.
thing about Gendron though. He's
Yeah.
never going to get to the NHL playing 91% in the offensive zone. Even if that number is a little off on Instat, it's probably not that far off.
Yeah, but he's gonna in order to get the chance, even get a thought, he's gotta finish. That
Yes,
is
because that's
because
his
he's
thing,
been
right?
given all these chances, right?
Right. He has to be a point a game guy to sort of like be in the running and then just play NHL average defense. But it's so you got to see if that comes around.
Now, with Jacob Gaucher, Bob Rochuk on the broadcast asked a really interesting question about him, or tried to explain why Gaucher's scoring was down from last year, and saying that Gaucher was generally their 1C last year, and he's been moved down because Lane Peterson is the 1C on the line with Bump and Barkey, right? And we're not breaking up that line. Like, do not break up that line, right?
Mhm.
So can you make the excuse for Gaucher that his production is naturally going to be down based on where he's playing in the lineup here?
Yeah, I do think you can. And when you look at how they're using him, so he's 36% in the defensive zone, 19% in neutral zone. So being in that role, that's more of a role that he might play in the NHL someday. He's not going to be a top 6 guy. So I think what
Right.
he's playing now is the only thing he has a chance to make the NHL at. So I think let him play that. I'm okay with that. I'm not worried about points. You're not going to bring up Gaucher into the NHL looking for points. You're going to bring him up for other play that he can do at the center position. And He plays, on the penalty kill. He's good on the penalty kill. He doesn't have a lot of penalties against him, but he draws penalties. He's going to be one of those guys if he's going to make it at all, right? So I like the way he's being used. I don't have a problem with it.
I do too. And that's just one of the things that came up and why people could just look at the stats.
Yeah, and they just say, 8 points, whatever. Yeah, it's not
like,
good
what's
enough.
he doing? Like, maybe he's a
doing
wash.
a lot, actually. He is doing a lot.
He is. And that's why I bring it up, because I don't want people to get down on him based on the score sheet at the moment. Right. Eventually you'd like to see it balance out a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do think that he's being used in very different ways. Just a little side note, Christian Kyrou, first weekend since he joined the Phantoms that he didn't get any points, and the Phantoms didn't do well. So, a little bit of a canary in the coal mine.
When you get that kind of production from the blue line, you're going to win games, right?
I know. I was just kind of bummed out about that for him, but overall he's still playing very well. So, I think it'll be another interesting week. It's a 2-game week this week for the Phantoms. They're playing Friday at Syracuse and Saturday at Rochester. So a nice roadie upstate in New York.
It'll be snowing during one of those
days.
It's
probably not going to be a fun bus ride, but at least it's not that long from Allentown. True. So hopefully we'll see some improvement on the win-loss column for them, and we will be back next week to talk about those games on our weekly Phantoms prospect report. And that will do it for today's show. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. You can send in those mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts to any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. Or now you can also ask us in the Discord of our Everydayers Club here. Did Locked On Flyers make your Spotify Wrapped? You can prove it on social media to secure a free month of the Everydayers Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any of the social platforms. We'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayers Club to get your favorite show, Locked On Flyers, ad-free, and get the exclusive access to members-only content like the Discord channel. I am Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.